The mysterious old school. On the outskirts of a forgotten town, where life once thrived but now only silence reigned, stood an old school, its dilapidated walls, darkened windows, and empty courtyard inspired fear. The locals avoided it, for it was rumored to be haunted by ghosts. The history of the school was shrouded in mystery. Once it was a center of knowledge and joy, but then it suddenly closed. Some said that a terrible tragedy had happened there, while others claimed that it was simply a cursed place. One day, a group of teenagers, seeking thrills, decided to enter the old school. They didn't believe in ghosts, considering them to be old wives' tales. Their leaders were Maxim, a reckless boy who feared nothing, and Yulia, a girl with a sharp mind and an insatiable curiosity. The teenagers snuck through a hole in the fence and stepped into the empty schoolyard. Their footsteps echoed loudly in the silence, and every breath seemed too loud. They cautiously approached the entrance to the school, where they were met by massive oak doors, tarnished by time. Maxim, without hesitation, pushed the doors open. They creaked open, revealing a dark corridor. The stale air, the smell of old age and decay, immediately hit them in the nose. The teenagers, huddled together, stepped into the corridor. Their hearts were pounding in their chests, and goosebumps ran down their spines. Each step was a struggle, for it seemed to them that someone was watching them. Suddenly, a sound came from the depths of the corridor. It was a quiet, barely audible cry. The teenagers froze, fear gripping their hearts. Yulia, gathering all her courage, followed the sound. She found herself in a dark classroom, where a little girl was sitting on an old desk. Her face was pale, and her eyes were filled with tears. "Why are you crying?" Yulia asked, trying to speak in a quiet voice. The girl didn't answer. She just looked at Yulia pitifully. "Do you want to come with us?" Yulia offered. The girl nodded and, taking Yulia's hand, led her out of the classroom. The teenagers, surprised by the girl's appearance, followed them. Together they left the school and headed for the exit of the yard. But suddenly the girl stopped and turned to the teenagers. Her face was twisted with anger, and her eyes burned with a wild fire. "You will never be free," her terrible voice rang out. She lunged at the teenagers, bearing sharp teeth and claws. Maxim and Yulia screamed in horror and ran away. Their friends, seized by panic, scattered in different directions. Maxim and Yulia rushed through the dark yard, stumbling over stones and branches. It seemed to them that the terrible creature was about to overtake them. Finally, they broke out of the gate and found themselves on the street. Their bodies trembled with fear, and their breath caught in their throats. Looking back, they saw that the terrible girl had disappeared. The teenagers, walking home in silence, could not believe what had happened. Their friends never came out of the school. The mystery of the old school remained unsolved, but one thing was clear: the ghosts that inhabited it were not to be trifled with.